AP Human Geography, what are the things that you need to keep into mind? First of all, let's understand the perspective. Why are you studying human geography? The basic idea is understanding the spatial organization around the patterns. Now, these patterns could be physical patterns, they could deal with the soil, the weather, the climate, the topography, or they could deal with the human aspect, which can be the historical aspects, the cultural aspects, the language, religion, population, demography. So all those, when arranged on a given parcel of land or on a given area, we say that this is understanding the spatial organization, what is present on space. Not only this, we also tend to understand how things have changed over the space. There is an element of understanding temporal changes, but this temporal changes, which is by a huge view, we can say it's historical in nature, but here we are understanding those changes over the given piece of land, over the given space, and therefore becomes important. Specifically, when we are targeting towards human geography, we are focusing on human beings and its interaction to environment. So human interaction with environment, how the demography affects it, what is the population, what's the language, the culture, the historical background, any kind of relation between people and land, and any changes in the society, how things are connected to one another, how people are connected to one another, how places are connected to one another, how does distance make a significant impact. So in this, we would be understanding population, agriculture, industry, minerals, urbanization. We would also talk about certain models. These models pertain to agriculture, for example, von Thunen model. We would be talking about Weber's industrial location model, demographic transition theory in the field of population, and so on and so forth. The next important thing is understanding how we relate the phenomena. Now, let's say I bring this picture here. In a free response question, you would be asked to write questions or answer questions regarding this. Now, what kind of questions can be? What is the importance of terrace farming? How the land utilization is done to the best in a terrace farming? How, as you can see a lady here, what is an important relation of the people to the farming practices? What is the type of settlement practices that you can see, whether it is an example of extensive or intensive farming, and there can be numerous things. What kind of plantations comes in, what kind of crops are grown. So those are some of the important things. Now here we have another map. So that was just an image. Here I have a map. Now this map talks about the COVID cases globally. Now based on this, you can have questions which pertain to the vaccination, the spread of the disease, how political organizations actually made it possible that vaccination occurs properly, what was the gap that was seen in the people who could actually get the vaccine and who could not get the vaccine. So the gap between have and have-nots. So all these questions can be asked based on the image or the diagram that is given. Now this is an image from the recent conflict in the Russia-Ukraine area. Now based on this, you can be asked about human settlements, asked about the implications of weapon, how it would affect the human sentiments. So there can be various ways through which questions can come in. There is another map here. Here we have the population growth rate. Now here are some nations with low population growth rate. On the other hand, we have nations with extremely high population growth rate. Why it is so that some nations have high growth rate, the others have low growth rate? Explaining that through demographic transition model. Then talking about fertility, mortality. So here again we have another graph where we say total fertility rate and relation to schooling for women. Now again, what's the relation, how it has been witnessed, and what is the trend? Those analysis could be done. Similarly, we have another graph from HDI, Human Development Index, it talks about the African nations which are relatively on the lower side of the curve, the Latin American and European nations on the relatively higher side of the curve. So why does it happen? What are the causes behind it? So questions like those based on the figure, based on the diagram are important. So let's say we have a simple question here based on population. Which country is projected to have the highest population in the world by 2050? Now, this would be based on the demographic transition model. We already know the existing trends, and based on the growth rate, we can find out by 2050, India would be one of the leading nations for the same. So, what kind of questions? The MCQ questions are usually direct and basic, but when it comes to free response, let's say here is a question. Now, this diagram shows the migration from Tunisia to Germany. Now, as a question, you can be asked, what is in migration? What is the stream of migration which is defined in the map? What are the pull factors that affect migration? What are the push factors why people are moving out of Tunisia? What are the factors that are bringing people in Germany? So pull factor and push factors could be asked, and explaining those with the relevance. And then there could be another question which could relate to immigration pattern and Germany's negative rate of natural increase. So based on the diagrams, based on the images, based on the maps, you can have related questions for free response as we have discussed. So this was just an overview, an idea about what you need to keep in mind while you are understanding the session on human geography. Definitely all the topics of human geography we have covered in our AP Human Geography lectures. The link is available below. Feel free to communicate and ask for any further questions or doubts if you have. Thank you.